MacArthur of the Delta Queen as it pulls away from our location here on the Mississippi River just outside of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. This is Charlie Jones and Steve Evans, and it was the Mississippi River that was the original thoroughfare of mid-America. It was the thoroughfare that opened expansion to the American West.
It certainly did, Charlie, but just upriver from where we are right now is a thoroughfare of a different kind, where the flow is a lot faster than the old Mississippi here. 160 miles an hour, it's State Capitol Dragway, the site of the 6th annual Cajun Nationals drag races.
And today we will be watching racing in a form that you saw many years ago on the Mississippi River. The Delta Queen is the oldest paddle boat on the Mississippi, and remember, it used to go against the Natchez in head-to-head competition.
And it's head-to-head competition all the way at the Cajun Nationals, Charlie. And the star of this race are the pro stockers. They're 160 miles an hour in just 8 seconds, over a quarter of a mile, and the only thing stock about these beautiful vehicles is their exterior appearance.
Hey, Steve, I thought the appearance under the lights last night in the qualifying gave drag racing an almost mystical look.
It certainly does. The 8 quickest pro stockers make the program today. They qualified last evening between 155 and 162 miles an hour, covering the quarter mile in about 8.5 seconds.
Lee Shepard of Arlington, Texas would be the man to beat the fastest qualifier, 8.35 seconds.
But no one here is counting out last year's world champion, Bob Glidden. Glidden qualified number 3 at 8.46.
We're at the State Capitol Dragway, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, for the Cajun National Drag Races on a hot, humid afternoon. We're ready now for action in the first round. It'll be Andy Mannarino, who qualified at 8.49 seconds, going against David Hutchins, who qualified at 8.56 seconds.
This is Dave Hutchins' first year as a professional driver, but he was quite successful in the sportsman drag racing ranks. Hutchins will be in the far lane. The drivers have already heated up the tires and are prepared to inch towards the starting line. They stage these cars very, very carefully. They're facing the famous Christmas tree starting system. On top of the tree, some small lights that indicate to the driver when they are positioned exactly on the starting line. They're ready.
Mannarino going against Hutchins. Mannarino, great reaction time in the left lane. He takes the early lead, and now David Hutchins will try and catch it.
Hutchins appears to have more horsepower, but it's to no avail as Andy Mannarino reacts to the green light a good deal quicker. Taking another look at the start of this race, Charlie, you can see clearly that Andy Mannarino reacts to the green light quicker than does Hutchins. Unique to this sport, the cars are timed independently. Even though Hutchins ran a little bit quicker, he loses the race. What really counts is the driver that gets there first.
And it was Andy Mannarino. He'll move on to the competition. Next up, Frank Iaconio and Bob Ingalls.
Frank Iaconio finished number 3 in the world last year, has already won a couple of important national events this year. Bob Ingalls still looking to make it big in the Pro Stock Wars.
And Bob, the underdog in this matchup, he had one of the slowest of the qualifying time.
Not only has Iaconio been quicker in qualifying, he's also been quicker off the starting line, but they leave right together in this one. It's going to be a matter of horsepower now, a dead even leave off the starting line, and it is Frank Iaconio pulling away from Bob Ingalls as he crosses the finish line first at 8.56 seconds. He'll advance to round number 2.
And here's the surge of Frank Iaconio as he defeats Bob Ingalls. He wins it in the second half of the race. And now moving out of the staging lanes, Don Kuntz and Bob Glidden.
Well, unless Don Kuntz has found some speed secrets overnight, he's in real trouble here as he faces Mr. Pro Stock, Bob Glidden. Glidden has won the World Championship the last 5 out of 6 years, and in the process earned over $1 million. This was the final round for the World Championship at Ontario, California, Drag Racing's World Finals. It was not an easy year for Glidden. Lee Shepard was right on his tail in the point standings all year long, but it was Bob Glidden, again, carrying the number 1 into the 1981 season, much to the delight of his wife, helpmate, Etta Glidden.
And Etta may be the main cog in this championship team. And earlier, Steve had a chance to visit with him.
Etta, there's lots of wives and girlfriends out here helping their men, but none get as involved as you do. None really get into the hard, mechanical labor of this very grueling sport. Tell me about the relationship you have with Bob.
Well, we have a really good relationship. You know, as a family, if the man is on the road constantly and the wife sits at home and she never goes with him, then it causes problems. Well, we're lucky. We've got 2 boys, and they're both interested in the racing, and we enjoy what we do.
I can see that. On the starting line, you are so intense. It's almost as if you are driving that car by brain power, remote control. Do you feel that way sometimes?
Sometimes, yes. You know, I offer him as much support as I can, and after he gets in and buckled up, you know, I'm just kind of standing out there, and the only thing I have to offer is mental support and watching him go down the track. Of course, you know, I see everything that happens. He doesn't see that much from inside, and sometimes they feel what the car is doing if it gets a little crossed up or a little squirrely, and sometimes they don't.
So what are you looking for on the starting line?
To see the initial leave of the car, how it's leaving, if it's hooking up, if it's spinning, if it's coming up or going out, or going out and then coming up, and what it's supposed to be doing and whether or not it's doing it right.
Etta and Bob, the championship Glidden. Bob in the near lane, going against Don Kuntz in the far lane. And just as Etta said, she's watching.
It's Glidden off the mark first with a big hole shot over Don Kuntz. This, coupled with his famous horsepower, should make this an easy win.
And Glidden wins it going away. Bob Glidden into the semifinals, and Etta goes back to the pit. She'll be working on the car. At the start, Bob Glidden won it. Reaction time, 11 100ths of a second faster than his opponent. That's worth a car length. Now to Steve.
All right, Bob, you ran an 8:46. You won, but you still haven't found that power that you want.
No, we're running extremely slow. We're not only running slow, some of the cars are running better. And if we don't find some horsepower, we're in trouble.
What can you do now to a pro stock in the pits to try to equal Lee Shepard? You're going to have to race him next round.
Well, we're going to have to wait and see what he runs. Do the best we can do.
What can you do, though?
Well, we'll probably try some different tire situations and maybe change some suspension parts, and that'll be about it.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Good luck.
Thanks, Steve.
Bob will be joining Etta in the pits. They'll be searching for some more horsepower, but they'll also keep an eye out on the next race, as Lee Shepard, the fastest qualifier, will be going against Pat Musi.
Lee Shepard has still not forgiven Bob Glidden, who robbed him of the world title last year. Shepard, as you said, Charlie, the quickest qualifier here at the Cajun Nationals. But Pat Musi has upset potential. He has already been runner-up at 2 national events this year, and that's quite impressive considering this is his first year of serious competition.
On paper, this almost looks like a mismatch, as Lee Shepard in the near lane, fastest qualifier, and he qualified 16 100ths of a second quicker than Pat Musi.
Musi being very slow to move to the line here, putting a bit of pressure on Shepard, looking for every advantage he can get, even if it's just psychological. Musi's ready, Shepard's ready.
Musi jumps, he's red lighted, he went out too quick.
Boy, I'll say he went out too quick. He may have just closed his eyes and rolled the dice, but it comes up snake eyes as a red light glows back on the Christmas tree, meaning automatic disqualification for Pat Musi.
And in reality, that was a gamble that Musi had to take. But watch, the car on the left, Musi's car, goes on the yellow before the green. Steve is now with Lee Shepard.
Lee Shepard, an 8:44 will give you lane choice over Glidden's 8:46. Is that important at all?
Well, it hadn't seemed to be so far, but it could be next round. We'll just have to wait and see.
Okay, now an 8:44 is off your qualifying pace. Did you take it easy on Musi? Did you lighten up a bit?
A little bit. We can go a little quicker, I think.
You may have to, because Glidden's back there trying to find everything he can.
Yeah, he usually does, too.
And so in the semifinals, it'll be Lee Shepard against Bob Glidden and Frank Iaconio going against Andy Mannarino. Hello again, this is Charlie Jones and Steve Evans. We're in the capital city of the state of Louisiana, Baton Rouge. And just across the river, the state capitol dragway. We're here for the Cajun National Drag Races, and we're set now for the first showdown in the semifinals between the two top drivers in the world.
This is the race the fans came to see, Charlie. The number 1 and number 2 pro stock drivers in all of drag racing. 1 year ago here at the Cajun Nationals, in the final round, it was again Lee Shepherd versus Frank Iaconio, also a semifinalist here today. It was Shepherd taking the title. In fact, Shepherd has made the final round here at the Cajuns 5 consecutive years.
And Lee Shepherd will be in the near lane, the same lane that he was in when he won here a year ago, the second time that he's won the Cajun Nationals. Bob Glidden will be in the far lane. He has won here 4 times. These are the only 2 men who have ever won this event.
As they move to the starting line, the fans are sinking whole shot here. Now, Shepherd, over the past few seasons, has been tough on Glidden. He has left first almost every time they have raced, but not this time. It's Glidden out first.
Glidden with the early lead. And now Shepherd tries to close on him, but Glidden has found that horsepower, and he holds him off.
Bob Glidden, one of the few times in his career he has been in the role of the underdog, and he proves that he still knows how to drive a race car.
Here's the key to the race, the hole shot, the quick start. Glidden on the right, timing his start exactly with the green light. He is out 14/100ths of a second quicker than Lee Shepherd, and that was the margin that he needed.
Whether Shepherd was complacent or just lost his timing on the starting line, who can say, but his little nap has cost him dearly.
Glidden with that horsepower that he has been searching for, he wins it by almost 2 lengths.
Well, the big number 1 on the door says it all. This is the world champion in pro stock, the winningest driver in drag racing history, and the Louisiana fans, Bob Glidden, have gone nuts up there. They recognize the best race of the day when they see it. 8:44 to an 8:45.
Was it that close?
Yeah.
Oh, Lee he had a little of my misfortune for a change. I think maybe he had a problem on the starting line. And the only shot we really had of winning the race was to leave the starting line first. And finally, it happened in my favor.
Well, and you've been criticized for your driving lately, and maybe Lee had a problem, maybe he didn't, but you were off that mark first, and you could have beaten even slower laps time. You had that big a hole shot.
Well, people don't understand that when you're the underdog, you can bring the clutch up a little bit tighter,
Right.
as we did, and you can take that chance. When you've got a margin on someone and take a chance of red lighting, you're just kidding yourself. If you lose by a red light and you're 6/800ths quicker than someone, you're digging your own grave. So today it was a little bit different, and thank God we came out on top for a change.
And now we'll see who meet Bob Glidden in the finals. Will it be Andy Mannarino or Frank Iaconio? Earlier, Steve talked with Frank.
With your kind of performance, is it tempting to you to kind of look past Andy Mannarino, your next opponent, and look to that final with either Glidden or Shepherd?
Yeah, you tend to, but I try not to, because that's a bad thing to do. When you do that, it always backfires on you.
That's when they step up and bite you.
Yeah, that's right.
Frank Iaconio's times have been consistently faster than Andy Mannarino.
Yes, they have, Charlie. And 2 totally different personalities here. The very outgoing, energetic Mannarino, the very quiet, contained Iaconio.
And another interesting matchup because Mannarino has never made a final.
And Iaconio fully expects to get at least this far. He's won a lot of national events. A great start by Andy Mannarino.
Iaconio now chasing Mannarino. Iaconio on the near side. Can he catch him? Mannarino holds him off and wins in the closest race that we've seen today.
Absolutely outstanding drag race.
Now let's go back to the key. It has to be the start. Mannarino barely gets the start over Iaconio. And that start is the difference, as they had identical times in the race. And here is that exciting finish as Mannarino wins by just under half a car length. Let's go down to Steve. He's with Andy.
Make my first final.
Andy Mannarino yells out of the cockpit of the Trans Am, have I made my first final? The answer is yes, with identical elapsed times. Both cars, 8:57 for both drivers. Let's see if we can get a look at this smiling face from Michigan.
Smiling face? All right.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you very much. First time we come this far.
Iaconio is such a driver, but you appear to maybe about driven him up there.
Hey, I can be with the best of them.
All right,
Yeah,
now
I
what?
know. line it up, that's all.
Yeah, but we're still a 10th away from Glidden. What do we do now? Can we find a 10th somewhere in this baby?
I wish I could. If you got any suggestions, I'm listening. I'm listening. We picked it up a 10 from the last one. We were 66. You said we were 57. 900s. We need another 900s. Or
All right,
more.
well, I'm not going to hold you up. Get back to the pits and see if you can find 1/10 of a second, because you may need it up against Bob Glidden in the final round of the Cajuns. That's a happy man. Andy Mannarino, number 9 in the world last year, looking to move up.
In the finals, it'll be Mannarino, his first final going against Bob Glidden, 5 times world champion. An overflow crowd at the State Capitol Dragway just outside of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. This is Charlie Jones, Steve Evans. We're here for the Cajun National Drag Races, the finals between Bob Glidden and Andy Mannarino. And while we were away, Glidden had a problem in his pits, and Steve is there to check it out.
Bob Glidden, we were clear over on the other side of the pits and heard a big boom from over here. What happened?
A battery exploded. I pulled a battery charger off with hot fumes coming out of the battery, and the spark exploded the battery.
That could happen to the average guy in his garage if he's not careful.
It certainly could. I've been preaching to my kids not to do that, and I reached across and did it. Yes, anytime a battery's hot and acid's coming out, a spark can certainly ignite it.
But everything seems to be all right with pro number 1, 5-time world champion driver, Bob Glidden. And here is Andy Mannarino. First time that Andy has made it this far. First time that he has been in the finals, so he has to be a bit nervous. And earlier, he talked with Steve.
There's a search going on here in the Andy Mannarino Pro Stock Camp. They're looking for about 1/1500ths of a second. Have we found any of that yet?
Well, we think we found a little bit. We'll have to rely on good light, and I think we figured about another 900s. We might have it.
And Steve, as we look down this quarter-mile drag strip to these 2 motorized gladiators, the first thing that I noticed is that the man with the fastest time in the previous outing gets the choice of the lane. Up to this point, that driver has always taken the lane on the left, the near lane. But this time, Bob Glidden is the choice. He takes the far lane.
That's because traditionally at this racetrack, as the afternoon wears on, the traction in that left-hand lane deteriorates.
So Andy Mannarino is facing Bob Glidden on a lane that may be a little bit slower. The winner of this race will take home $11,000. But for Mannarino, even more important, recognition as a top pro stock driver.
Andy Mannarino is out first over Bob Glidden. He's got a shot at winning this title. Glidden has more horsepower. He's inching up. It's anybody's drag race. It's Bob Glidden winning the Cajun Nationals.
And what a way to finish the competition here today, as Etta Glidden, Bob's wife, joins the celebration.
Let's take another look at this race. Off the starting line, it's Andy Mannarino, cat-like quick. He gets an instant edge over Glidden. At this point, he can't even see Glidden. He can taste this Cajun Nationals victory.
Andy Mannarino driving a great race, but it was Bob Glidden with too much experience and too much horsepower as he edges him at the line. Let's go down the winner's circle, and Steve's with the champion.
And wheeling into the Cajun Nationals winner's circle after an incredible battle in the final round with Andy Mannarino, Bob Glidden. Congratulations. How many national event victories is this?
Don't ask me that, Steve. I don't know.
It's 34 or 5. The winningest drag racer in history. Doesn't matter what class. Tell us about the race. Let's rerun it a little bit.
That was just a terribly close race. Andy left on me 2 or 300ths on the starting line, and at the first speed light, he was 2 foot ahead of me.
2 feet at almost the finish line?
Yes. 66 foot before the finish line? And I was fairly well sure at the finish line I'd won the race.
I see a lady over here, I think. You know, Etta, come here. Let's not deprive Etta Glidden, who works so very, very hard on this car. And I don't mean polishing wheels. She gets in there and helps build engines. Congratulations.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
You folks are just an incredible couple in motorsports history. You've done so well and made an incredible career out of drag racing, right? It's done very well for you.
Well, it's been very rewarding, not only
financially.
Not only financially, but in many other ways.
Okay. Well, congratulations again.
Thank you.
To the premier couple in motor racing. You just can't talk about the driver because this is such a team effort. Bob and Etta Glidden, Cajun Nationals Pro Stock winners.
And we've had a great day of racing here in Cajun country, just outside of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, as the overflow crowd is leaving the state capitol dragway. Our congratulations to Bob Glidden, officially his 33rd victory, and to Andy Mannarino for the outstanding performance of his still young career. For Steve Evans, this is Charlie Jones. So long from the Cajun National Drag Races. Welcome to Nottoway. This is the oldest plantation in the South. It is located on the banks of the Mississippi River, just outside of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Nottoway was completed in the year 1859, just prior to the Civil War. It has a total of 64 rooms and 53,000 square feet under the original slate roof. During the Civil War, Nottoway was spared through the kindness of a northern gunboat officer who ironically had been a guest here at the mansion. Hello, everybody. This is Charlie Jones along with Steve Evans.
In those glory years, Charlie, prior to the Civil War, one of the favorite pastimes of the gentleman planters here in this region was racing their horses one-on-one over a quarter-mile distance.
And that is the key to our event today, the quarter-mile distance. But it's not horses, it is horsepower.
And lots of it. Over 2,000 horsepower per vehicle as we look at the top fuel eliminator category here at the 6th Annual Cajun National Drag Races.
And Steve, here we are, the top fuel dragsters, kings of the sport of drag racing.
It's hard to believe, Charlie, that these 1,400-pound missiles are capable of speeds over 250 miles an hour in just 5 seconds. They're the fastest accelerating race cars in the world. Powered by $17,000 aluminum Hemi engines, they run on highly explosive nitromethane fuel. The object is to go in a straight line, but it's not all that easy.
We are watching some of the qualifying time trial. 24 attempted, but only 8 made it to the quarterfinals. This is State Capitol Dragway, and we're here for the Cajun National Drag Races. In the first round, we're ready for the matchup between Terry Cap.
Terry is a Canadian, Charlie, who last year won the United States Nationals.
And Terry will be up against Tony Serralo. Tony has one of the most interesting crews on the drag racing circuit, and with that story, here's Steve.
One of the most competitive entries nationally in the top fuel eliminator category is not a big dollar operation. It's a New York school teacher by the name of Tony Serralo, and his prime help are his 2 young daughters, 11 and 12 years old. It's incredible. What all are they really capable of, Tonya and Kathy?
They really help out around the car. They're able to just take apart just about anything I ask them to. They've practiced with it. They really get a lot of joy out of doing it. They get a lot of satisfaction from it.
And you're a single parent, so this is really all of your recreation.
Sure is. I try to tie in what they do on the car to what they're doing at school, and we make it a whole family thing that way.
You told me that when you come home from teaching auto mechanics in New York City that they have torn the motor completely apart.
They've done that. My daughters can go into the trailer and pull it apart. It's like recreation. Instead of going in the yard to play on the high bars, they go in the trailer and play with it.
play with the motor.
As heavy as these parts are, that's even good exercise. How do you do it on a school teacher's salary?
Oh, we try to come out here and run and make sure we win some prize money.
I notice on the seat, as you get into the car, lettered on the seat, it says money. Is that constantly on your mind?
Sure is. Just don't make no mistakes. That's what it means to me. Money. Watch it, son.
Tonya and Kathy Serrallo buckling up their dad, and they'll certainly be his rooting section today.
Serrallo, the number 7 qualifier, will face this man, Terry Cap, the number 3 qualifier. The electric starters bring these supercharged engines to life. They have a sound unlike any other race car, Charlie, as they run on nitromethane fuel. It's about $25 a gallon. They'll burn 10 gallons. This is what's known as the burnout. The driver idles the car into a puddle of water, hammers the throttle to smoke those tires to get them hot and to put hot rubber down on the racetrack. It's important that they back up at exactly the same tracks they burned out. Now watch as the tires actually grow well over a foot. The centrifugal force is just incredible on the burnout.
And also, it is a violent burnout. You can see that Terry Cap holding onto his visor so that he doesn't lose it. The start, the famous Christmas tree start. You'll see a flash of a yellow light. 0.4 of a second later, the green. If you go before the green, then you'll see the red light, and that means you lose.
The starter brings the drivers very carefully to the starting line. The start all important in this sport of drag racing. Terry Cap away first as Serrallo is sound asleep. Oh, an explosion on Serrallo's engine. Let's hope he's okay and can maintain control.
A supercharger coming loose comes bouncing down lane number 2. As Serrallo is moving around, he seems to be all right. There was not a follow-up explosion in the car.
For some reason, Tony Serrallo did not react to the light at all. He's terribly late. When he finally does give pursuit, Terry Cap has an insurmountable lead. Then to compound Tony's problems, the supercharger explodes right off the top of the engine. The bottom end of the engine explodes as well. That's an oil fire we see. Tony, a lucky man that the engine is behind the driver, or some serious burns could have resulted here.
So Terry Cap moves into the semifinals, and for Tony Serrallo and his young crew, it's been a short afternoon. We're back on the banks of the Mississippi River as the Delta Queen goes steaming by. We're just outside of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. This is Charlie Jones, Steve Evans. We're here for the Cajun National Drag Races. Earlier in the quarterfinals in the top fuel division, Tony Serrallo had a problem. He is in the far lane, a little squirrely at first. He got off to a bad start and then blew his engine. Now that is a 100-pound supercharger that comes bounding loose and follows him down the drag strip. And for Tony, the school teacher from New York, the bad news, the explosion, the good news, he's all right.
That's an expensive blower explosion. How much do you figure something like that is going to cost to repair?
A whole bunch. Whole bunch.
How does a guy on your budget recover from something like this? You just save a little harder and spend a little less elsewhere, or what?
We figure it out. I don't know. We have to come up with it somehow.
Are there any of these parts that can be saved that were tumbling down the racetrack?
Yeah, a lot of it's salvageable. You know, just it looks a lot worse than it really is.
Well, one thing I can tell after having met you people here today is that you will definitely be back at the next big drag race. Nothing's going to keep you away.
No, we'll be there. See ya.
And we'll see you, Tony, because we know you'll be back. The next matchup, quarterfinals. It'll be Jeb Allen going against Marvin Graham, the number 3 and number 4 time qualifiers. Marvin Graham, the former national champion, and he ranks as one of the favorites. Tough competition. Jeb Allen, the quickest driver in the history of this sport. Marvin Graham against Jeb Allen. We've just received a report. There's a problem in one of the other competitors' pits. Steve is there. Let's go to it.
Charlie, here in the pit area, a big crowd around the Candies and Hughes car. His driver, Richard Tharp, started the engine to warm it up and discovered a frozen camshaft bearing. That's something that cannot be fixed in just the few minutes they have, so they're installing a fresh engine. Now, this engine has not been run or tried here this weekend, so who knows? It's anybody's guess how Richard Tharp, the Candies and Hughes car from Louisiana, will fare here in the first round. Can they even make the first round?
And they'll be working against the clock just to make it into the action here. The wife of Jeb Allen as she looks on near the start line.
This has all the ingredients, Charlie, to be a real good drag race. They qualified only a few hundredths of a second apart. Now, Jeb was the quicker of the two, though, in qualifying. He has lane choice. He selected this near lane. Marvin Graham in the far lane.
An even matchup between Graham and Allen.
Both drivers staring at the yellow lights. They get it, and off first is Marvin Graham, but Marvin goes up in smoke. Jeb Allen is going to drive around him, but just barely.
Excellent driving, though, for Marvin Graham. He got squirrely, he almost lost it, and Cindy Allen says, way to go.
Marvin Graham, as you said, Charlie, did a fine job of driving. First, he was off the line instantly. Jeb Allen in a little bit of trouble there until Marvin loses traction. Now, Graham backs off the throttle just enough to dry up that smoke, gets back on the pedal, and goes after Jeb.
But Jeb Allen, the consummate professional, would not be denied as he went on to win and move into the semifinals. Steve's with it.
Jeb Allen, a first-round winner here at the Cajun Nationals. And, Jeb, it ran a 5.99. Did you intentionally go to the line maybe a little soft, worried about the racetrack?
Sure did, Steve. We took a little clutch out of it. Marvin was pulled out there, and, you know, luckily they had an oil down maybe. But we lost the last two NHRA races by smoking the tires. And I think, you know, we're a tough customer, and everybody knows that, so we're just trying to play the game a little bit until we can get the horsepower, the curve power worked out on this motor of ours.
Next up, we'll see the man everyone's been waiting for, the fastest qualifier, David Pace. It will be David Pace going against Jody Smart.
Jody Smart came back into the drag racing sport last year after a 10-year layoff and has surprised everyone with his consistency. For David Pace, it's the first time he's qualified on the pole in a long, long career.
David Pace from Louisville, Texas, is the man to beat in the competition today.
Texas currently, Charlie, is a real hotbed of nitromethane drag racing. Some of the best come out of the Lone Star State. Jody Smart from San Antonio believes in running his engine very conservatively, but he may have to step up here against this #1 qualifier.
And so we have a pair of Texans going head-to-head. Jody Smart, far lane, has the better start of the two, and now he simply runs away with it. Jody has a problem, though. I believe that he lost, yes, he lost the left front, the rubber on the left front tire. Steve is down there. We'll see if we can get a report. We haven't seen anything like this all day. There's a good shot of it. Jody's clearly okay. Steve is running over there now to see what happened.
Charlie, Jody Smart is high-centered here on the return road, and as you can see, somewhere on the racetrack, due to the high velocity of this vehicle, the front tire came right off the wheel. We didn't see it come off, but it's obviously gone. And with that couple of inches off the front end and the very low car, the turnaround crew, always very helpful, picks it up trying to help Jody Smart do as little damage as possible. Smart, I'm sure, is not all that concerned about the front tire. He arrived here with the quickest elapsed time we've seen so far in this first round of Top Fuel racing.
So everything is okay at the end of the drag strip. It's also okay at the beginning. This is Richard Tharp. Now remember, he had to change an engine. He's ready to go. He has another problem, though. He was the slowest qualifier in the field.
Tharp is matched up against former world and national champ Gary Beck. Gary is also the defending Cajun Nationals champ. 1 year ago here, it was Beck grabbing an early final round lead over Jeb Allen, and a good thing for both of them that he did, as Jeb lost traction, then lost control, darting into Beck's lane. Had they been side by side, a nasty two-car collision could have resulted.
And so Gary Beck went on to win the Cajun National a year ago. And this year he is driving that same blue car. Gary Beck will be in the near lane, Richard Tharp in the far lane.
These two drivers have very similar histories, Charlie. Both have won the World Championship, and both have won the biggest drag race of them all, the U.S. Nationals at Indianapolis. Tharp, #7 in the world last year. Gary Beck, #2, almost winning the Top Fuel World Championship again. They're set and ready. Richard Tharp, far lane, and Gary Beck anticipates the light. He red lights. He is automatically disqualified, and what a break for Richard Tharp.
Richard Tharp driving for Candies and Hughes. That is the only entrant at the quarterfinal level from the state of Louisiana. Gary Beck just coasting down, drawing that red light penalty, meaning disqualification between the yellow and the green. 0.4 of a second. If you go before the green, then you see the red light, and that means that you're out of the race. So Gary Beck heads back to the pits. Richard Tharp will head for the semifinals. He's with Steve.
Richard Tharp, after the pressure of having to install a new engine at the last minute, you needed that little bit of racing luck there with Gary Beck red lighting, gave you a chance to put a lap on this motor.
Yeah, well, Steve, you know, we need all the luck we can get. I kind of screwed up a little bit. I didn't get on my high speed, and I think we run a 6.0 something, but...
What is a high speed?
Well, it's just a thing that leans the car out when you get on down the racetrack, makes it run just a little bit quicker, and I just kind of screwed up a little bit there. And I almost red lighted myself. They held a tree on us an awful long time up there.
With all the tension of having to put in a new engine at the last minute, were you still really mentally ready to leave that starting line, do everything right? You had to be tired.
Yeah, we're tired. Yeah, it's hard, you know, but it just works sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't.
So in the semifinals, it'll be Richard Tharp, who had this easy run to victory against Jeb Allen, Terry Kapp versus Jody Smart. Welcome back to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, on the banks of the Mississippi River. This is Charlie Jones and Steve Evans. We're here for the Cajun National Drag Races. Top Fuel Division semifinals. It'll be Jody Smart, who beat the fastest qualifier in the quarterfinals. You will recall he lost his left front wheel in that win. He'll be going against the Canadian Terry Kapp, who is currently the reigning U.S. national champion. And earlier, Steve talked with Jody Smart.
You know, all you drivers, you always tell me, oh, I just raced the light, I just raced the clock. You telling me going down that racetrack, you're not glancing over to see where that other car is?
Well, if he's out front, you know where he's at, but hopefully he's not going to be out front. I try very hard not to look at the other car because I found when I first started last year that sometimes it distracted me from where I was shifting the car, and I really do try my best to just obliviate the other lane.
Jody Smart will be in the near lane. Terry Kapp will be in the far lane.
If Terry Kapp can beat Jody Smart, it'll be his third final round appearance on the circuit this year, and it's a great start by both drivers.
Terry Kapp, far lane with the early lead. Smart chasing him, but Terry Kapp holds him off, and it will be the Canadian moving into the finals here today. And the key to this race could have been the fact that Jody Smart used a bit too much nitro. The results, you see it on the left. Too much horsepower for this drag strip.
Terry Kapp wants to take this American Green back to Canada. Who would you rather face in the final, Jeb Allen or Richard Tharp, if you had a choice?
Actually, we've raced them both, and I enjoy racing either one of them. They're both good sportsmen, and they're friends of ours, and I've raced Jeb a few times and beat him a few times, and I've raced Richard a few times and beat him a few times, and they've beat me a few times, so it's going to be a good race all the way around.
All right, let's go to the starting line and find out just who Terry Kapp will race in the final round of the Cajun Nationals.
Second semifinal matchup before this overflow crowd. The temperature in the 90s. It is hot, it is humid. Jeb Allen will be in the near lane. He had the choice of lanes. Going against Richard Tharp in the far lane. A classic matchup in this semifinal. Earlier, Steve had an opportunity to take a closer look at the tires on a Top Fuel dragster.
The tires on these top fuel dragsters are big. You can see that even on television. But you can't appreciate how really enormous they are until you roll in an average-sized passenger car tire. The drag's slick, no tread. They want all the contact they can get onto the pavement. It's 3.5 feet high, 1.5 feet wide. Now on this tire, you get 25, 30,000 miles with any luck and good driving. This tire, you get exactly 1 mile before you throw it away. And this tire is $225 compared to maybe $35 or $40 here. I'm just glad I'm not the guy that has to mount this tire.
One other comparison, only 4 pounds of air pressure used in these tires of top fuel dragster.
Jeb Allen owns and maintains his own car. Richard Tharp is a contracted driver. A perfect start by both drivers. Jeb Allen with some control problems. He gets it straightened out and out and muscles Tharp at 243 miles an hour.
So it is Jeb Allen moving into the finals, where he'll be going against the Canadian Terry Cap. Cindy Allen, his wife, into the pickup truck, and she'll head towards the finish line. Steve Evans is also headed towards the finish line, and a chance to talk with Jeb Allen. Steve?
So for Jeb Allen, it's a final round berth here at the Cajun Nationals. I know your question is, what did you run? It was enough for lane choice, a 6:02.
Yeah, it shook really bad. I guess I'm getting old.
At 26?
Yeah, I'll be 27 in about 2 weeks. It's, you know, we put a little power in it and it spun the tires. I lifted and got back in it, and, you know, we just had the horsepower. You probably did the same thing. We pulled away from him on the top end.
You know, 1 year ago today, it looked as if you were going to win this event. You had the favored lane, but you crossed the center line, almost tipped the car over. Are you going to be a little more cautious of track conditions, changing conditions?
We're a year older, and in sense and learning things, we're about 10 years older, I think, from the day we were here a year ago.
All right, it'll be Terry Cap and Jeb Allen, a weekend warrior, and Jeb who races for a living. That's how it sets up at the Cajun Nationals.
This is Charlie Jones and Steve Evans. We're back at the State Capitol Dragway, just outside of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And we're here now for the finals of the Cajun National Drag Races for top fuel dragsters. The final matchup between Jeb Allen, who will be in the far lane. He'll be going for his 7th career victory. He'll be going against Terry Cap, who is after his 2nd career victory. His first victory was in the Nationals. Steve talked with both drivers.
Is there anything you do as a driver to psych yourself up to meet somebody like Jeb Allen, who you know is not apt to make a mistake on the starting line?
No, I don't really let that bother me too much. It's not my living, so as a result, there's not a lot of pressure. And we still do it basically for the sport of it. And I like to drive safely. And when you're on, you're on. And lately, it's been better. We've been running more. And but I don't do anything to psych myself up. I just stage the car and
go for it.
Go for it. At the end of the track, you see what happens. But we're getting it there. A little more racing, a little more experience, like anything else. Mind you, I've been racing for several years, but not, as you say, like Jeb Allen every weekend.
So you feel the guy that finds the balance of power for the track conditions is going to win this race?
Well, yeah, but you know, the track conditions here in Louisiana is a little strange. The air, you cut it with a knife almost. It's so thick. and it's just, it's a tricky deal. Terry Cap's been in the final here lately. He's a tough competitor, you know. It'll be anybody's drag race when we go up there. We keep in our back of our head, we have to beat that, man. You know, you don't win until I see you down at the other end talking to me.
So Jeb Allen, he had the fastest time in the semifinals. He has choice of lanes, and for the first time today, he takes the lane on the right. Terry Cap will be in the near lane.
This is a repeat of the final round at the U.S. Nationals last year, Charlie, when Terry Cap defeated Jeb Allen. Jeb looking for a little revenge right now. A perfect start by both cars. Cap doesn't appear to have the horsepower he needs. It's Jeb Allen all the way. His first ever Cajun Nationals win.
Terry Cap had problems right from the beginning, and Cindy Allen is now headed out to join her husband, and congratulations all around. For Jeb Allen, at 26 years of age, the consummate professional from Long Beach, back at the start. Allen with a good start, Cap has a good start. But watch Cap on the left. He simply does not have any grip with the tires. They start to spin on him, then he knows he cannot catch Jeb Allen, so he just backs off, and Allen takes it going away. For Jeb Allen, it's been a perfect week. He's with Steve. Let's join him.
An absolutely beaming Jeb Allen wheels into the winner's circle to accept congratulations on his first ever Cajun Nationals victory. You made it look easy. You didn't overpower the racetrack. Ran just perfect, 6'11".
Yeah, you know, we went into the final round here last year against Gary Beck. You know, we was number 2, the same as we are this year. And we smoked the tires in the left lane. So we immediately said when we went into the final, Bob DeVore helped us out a little bit and said, let's go to the right lane, let's change lanes. And then when I seen the Pro Stock winner and the Pro Comp winner win in the right lane, I said, boy, it's my day, you know. Not taking the cylinder heads off the car the entire weekend, not even having to take a piston out to inspect it. It's just you know, it's like a dream come true, you know.
At 26 years of age, Jeb Allen is professional as they come in the sport of drag racing.
And it was a record crowd here today in Cajun country at the State Capitol Dragway, just outside of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Our congratulations to Jeb Allen on his 7th career victory. For Steve Evans, this is Charlie Jones. So long from the Cajun National Drag Race.